The heroine of my story is a woman I never met, a friend of mine's mother. And even though I never met her, she's been a mentor of mine for many decades. The name of the story is Goldy. The story begins in the Roger Williams Housing Project in Providence, Rhode Island, where I grew up in the late 1940s and early 1950s. Back then, projects had lots of kids running around all over the place. It was like a human anthill. But there wasn't the organized activities for kids that there are in many communities now. There was no Little League baseball, no Pop Warner football, things like that. So we had to make up our own fun and our own games. Primarily, that turned out to be choose-up kind of games like football and baseball. And in fact, those dominated the fun landscape from March through Thanksgiving. That left, though, the cold, bitter cold times from mid-December to early March, where there was nothing to do. So if you were lucky enough to find and get your hands on a pair of hand-me-down ice skates, what you wound up doing was playing ice hockey. Now, the place we played hockey was a place called Sackett Woods. Now, Sackett Woods was about a half-mile west of the Prairie Avenue side of the projects. It was nothing to look at. A 3-block long, 2-block wide, empty field full of old tires and plywood and junk that people had left. Why it got the name Sackett Woods, nobody could figure, because there wasn't a tree. There wasn't even a stump to say that one day this place had woods on it. But what made it unique, if you can visualize it, it was like a large candy dish, maybe 3-block long, 2-block wide, and it had a lower part in the middle. And that meant all the rain runoff and snow runoff went down and settled in the middle of this place, and it formed the biggest puddle you can possibly imagine. Imagine a puddle that's one city block in diameter. And the great thing about it was a big surface, but it was only 3 feet deep. And so when the first blast of Canadian air came down through southern New England, it froze very quickly. And we were able to skate right through from mid-December roughly through the 1st of March, which took away that downtime in terms of the fun of all the kids. Now, my first season at Sackett Woods, I was 10 years old. And I went down there and I skated around the outside. All the big kids were playing, and I was trying to show them my moves and staying close and kind of going around hoping they would invite me to play. Well, one cold January day, they said, "Hey kid, you want to play?" I said, "Yes." And they put me in the goal, and I had to stand there in the bitter cold wind for 2 hours between two kids' shoes that served as the goal, freezing my you-know-what's up. But I was so happy to play. Well, the good news was, after that, I started getting picked in the games. I was always picked last that year, but nevertheless, I got to play. The games would go on from early morning, 3 on a side, to 15 on a side at noontime, back to 3 on a side toward dusk. And we played all day Saturday, all day Sunday. It was so fun. When I was 11, I was getting picked regularly, and I wasn't getting picked last, which was great. But there was another kid, my age, my size, who wasn't getting picked last either. I didn't know who this kid was. I knew he wasn't a project kid, so I couldn't figure it out. And asking around, people told me his name was Howie Goldsmith, but his friends just called him Goldy. And pretty soon, he and I were getting picked in the choose-up games, roughly one right after another. And the older guys would say, "Well, that's because Goldy and Egan are about as good as each other." Well, you can imagine, this touched off a rivalry. And in the games, we would play against each other with great intensity. And I thought to myself, I've got to get ahead of this guy. And so what I cooked up was a plan. I would run home from school as fast as I can at 3, we got out at 3:30, get home by 4 o'clock, grab my skates, run down, and get some extra practice in. So we had We had only an hour a day left, but I said, it's still worth it. If I can get ahead of this guy, this would be terrific. So I run home, grab my skates, run down to Sackett Woods, and there he is. He's already out there. I said, damn. So he's out there, so I get my stuff on, and in this very shy but direct way 11-year-olds have of getting to know each other, I said, hey kid, you want to play some one-on-one? And he said, yeah. So we started going at it, trying to best each other through the whole, until it got really dark and we just couldn't go anymore. And so we sat down at the edge of the pond or puddle or whatever you want to call it, and we sat on this old bedroom door that some kid must have dragged down there the summer before to use as a raft or a wannabe raft. So we're sitting there and we're taking our stuff off, but at first we would just kick. When you kick the ice to make, and the sound would rumble across the ice, that sound the ice makes. It was so cool, we would just kick. And above us, of course, was the winter sky with Orion and all the stars blazing. And we sat there and we talked, we got to know each other and kicked our skates. And at that night, we revealed our lifelong dream to each other. Someday, we were going to play high school hockey. This was something we shared, very important thing that we shared with each other that very first night. And so, what happened then was that continued on for the next 3 years. We kept talking about high school hockey, and we got better and better. And by the 8th grade, we weren't too bad. And we kept, talking about our dream. But for Howie, he got very nervous and very, very upset. And he says to me one day, Tom, he says, my mother doesn't want me to play hockey. Now, I thought at 13 years old, this is the most unreasonable thing I've ever heard of. Tom, my mother, well, why doesn't your mother want you to play hockey? Well, you see, I'm Jewish. And she says to me, Howie, nobody's ever heard of a Jewish hockey player. And besides, you're going to get face cuts and you're going to lose teeth. You see, back then, high school hockey and college hockey didn't have the mandatory face shields that the players now have. So she had a legitimate word. But I thought, my 13-year-old mind said, this is the most unreasonable thing I ever heard of. But he was quite upset about it. So the next year we were off to high school, and little did we know that our days at Sackett Woods were over. It was a time, gone with the wind, if you like that expression. It was just history, but we didn't know that at the time. I went across town to the Catholic high school where my uncles and brothers and everybody in my family went, and I never heard much about it. We moved out of the projects and moved to a town called Cranston, which was several miles away from Sackett Woods. And I got absorbed in things in high school, and lo and behold, I tried out for the hockey team at the high school and I got cut. Now that sent my 14-year-old self into the biggest depression and self-pity that only a 14-year-old can. I was just really in a funk. I avoided people. I didn't go to high school games anymore. I just kept to myself. I was really depressed. All through my sophomore year, I stayed depressed. But by my junior year, I started coming out of this funk, and I decided, oh, what the heck? I'll get on the North Main Street bus and go across town and go to the Friday night hockey games at the old Rhode Island Auditorium. And so I did. I went to see the games with a 3-game card. Every Friday night was high school hockey night at the old Rhode Island Auditorium. And the last game was Hope High versus Cranston. And so I'm sitting there, and out comes Hope to warm up for the game, and there's this kid with this very funny, like a molded leather Halloween mask over his face with straps all tied to the back of his, and I said, oh my God, look at that kid. All those Cranston High cheerleaders are going to start on him and call him chicken. It's going to be a brutal thing. I don't know who this kid is, but I felt sorry for him. Well, the game got started, and this kid was a superb player. He just had that natural stride, that wide bottom stride. He just dominated the game on his section of the ice. He played defense. Nobody got by him. He was just terrific. And I said, my God. And there were no cheers because he was such a good player. There were no cheers from anybody. After the game, Everybody, you know, takes their helmets off and skates around, and they didn't have the habit of shaking the other team's hand. We weren't that civilized back then. We didn't shake the other team's hand. But they take their helmets off to show off for the cheerleaders and all that kind of stuff. And I looked at him, I said, oh my God, it is Howie. Now, he had grown quite a bit. He was 6'1" or 2", a very big kid. And I said, I felt so thrilled that he had made Hope High. He had achieved his dream. This was so cool. Anyway, pretty soon I decided, I said, I ought to say hi to him. You know, we haven't seen each other in 2 or 3 years. So I waited in the lobby of the old Rhode Island Auditorium till he came out of the locker room. Now he comes out with all his Hope High friends, and they got their navy blue shirt on. And unfortunately, I had my maroon sweater on, which identified me as somebody from the enemy high school. So he comes out. He couldn't be very friendly to me because of this color, you know, this clash of clans, if you will. And so I said, good game, Goldy, nice going. And he said, how you doing? He got good. Yeah, thanks. And he kept going. But I knew he understood the politics of the situation was he couldn't be too friendly because high school rivalries were pretty intense back then. Anyway, time went by. We both went off to college. I didn't know what happened to him. I got absorbed in going to college. And after college, I went out west. And I stayed out west for 15 years working out there. And then we returned, my lovely wife and I returned to southern New England back in the late 70s. And we got together with old friends from high school and college, and we had this big dinner at this Italian restaurant in Providence called Twin Oaks. And everybody who knows Providence knows that's where a lot of people go for a great get-together Italian dinner. It's right on the Providence-Cranston line. So we're toasting and telling old stories. In the middle of the old stories, I said, hey, any of you guys know what happened to Howie Goldsmith? And one guy says, yeah, he went to Boston College. He went to Boston College. He played hockey up there for 2 years. And I'm thinking, Boston College? A Jesuit Catholic college? Howie went to Jesuit Catholic college? But immediately I knew why. Because Boston College is a major NCAA Division I college hockey power. And I said, oh, wow. And then another guy pipes up, yeah, he played for BC for 2 years. I thought to myself, what an accomplishment for a Sackett Woods alum to make BC. This is awesome. And I said, well, why did he only play 2 years? Well, you see, his mother told him he had to get his grades up, and so he had to quit hockey. So now he's a CPA somewhere down in Florida, doing pretty well, I hear. Anyway, I drove home that night feeling, wow, that's so cool that he made BC. What an accomplishment in that world. That's a huge, huge accomplishment. Anyway, time goes by, and I thought about him a lot over the years. And but as I thought more and more about him, I realized the real hero in the piece was his mother. His mother had overcome her fears about his